Welcome to your guided tour of Profit Acceleration Software. My name is Carl Bryan. I am the founder of Focus.com. I'm the creator of Profit Acceleration Software, also the creator of Digital Acceleration Software. And what I wanted to do today is to show you some of the magic behind the scenes of Profit Acceleration Software. I would like to show you why we do what we do, how we do what we do, and then ultimately, I'd like you to be able to see for your coaching consulting practice how we'd be able to accelerate everything that you're currently doing. And more importantly, and debatably, far more importantly, how we'll be able to jack up results for the coaching clients and the consulting clients that you're currently working with. So that said, I'd like to get straight into it. What you're looking at right here is Profit Acceleration Software. This is the Jumpstart 12. We've got the Jumpstart 12, Jumpstart 40, and then Deep Dive 40. All of which I want you to think Jumpstart 12 is the sandbox and how we close a high-end coaching client. Let's just say a coaching client, consulting client that's going to pay you $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year, as an example. And then ultimately the Jumpstart 40 would how you'd go a little bit more in depth to assist that business owner. And then ultimately Deep Dive 40, as the name suggests, with Deep Dive, we go really deep with your client and you're going to be able to find unbelievable number of nooks and crannies where you'll be able to find incredibly obvious and impactful opportunities to increase their profits wildly. Okay, so that said, Jumpstart 12, very quickly, it says Jumpstart 12, and that's because there's 12 areas. Those areas are right here: cutting costs, market dominating position, compelling offer, increased prices, upsell, cross-sell, bundling, downsell, additional products and services, alliance and joint ventures, drip campaigns, leads, digital marketing. You can see them all listed there, okay? Translation, no rocket science involved, and you can feel very, very comfortable that any business owner you're working with, the chiropractor, the dentist, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, you would be able to go in and in all 12 areas, make a small incremental change to be able to jack up their profitability big time, okay? And remember, we built profit acceleration software. I didn't build revenue acceleration software, okay? So very quickly, let's just run through a couple of these. So you've got cutting costs as one of the first areas. You click that, and very simply, what we would do is you're going to ask some very simple questions to the business owner to be able to ascertain, have they gone through their credit card statements? Have they gone through their P&L and their expenses to be able to minimize expenses over the last 12 months? I can tell you without sitting with them, it's probably been 3 years since they've done anything that would resemble an audit of expenses. And what you're doing, the acid test is this. When I look at an expense, I say, does it get us a client? Does it keep us a client? And if it doesn't do either of those two things, I debate that there would be an argument that you could literally put a line straight through it, cancel it immediately. And at a minimum, what you'd be able to do is to go to whoever you're spending the money on and negotiate to be able to see if you could decrease the expense, okay? Example, they're paying rent, $5,000 a month. They've been there for 3 years. They're now at a month-to-month agreement. Could you go to the landlord and say, look, somebody down the road is interested in getting me to move down the street. They got a bigger location, debatably a better location, and a little bit more square footage. But I don't really want to move, and I've been here for a long time. Would you be willing to look at, I sign a 3-year agreement, and then you would agree to $4,000 a month for those 3 years? Okay, so that's a discount to $12,000 a year, $36,000 over the course of the 3-year agreement. Now, they're probably going to say no, but they might negotiate. You might come at $500 and a $6,000 discount. You might come at $250 and a $3,000 discount. There's the magazine subscription that they've had forever, and they're no longer even getting the magazine. It's going to a different location, or nobody reads it, or it's not something that's relevant anymore. Okay, put a line through it. The bottom line is we go through cutting costs. We say, does it get us a client? Does it keep us a client? If the answer is no, we try to put a line through it. You are going to see here that all I have is a 3% increase in cutting costs. If you do what I just described with every single expense in their company, I assure you, you're not going to get a 3% bump. You're going to get a 10, 15, 20, 25% bump. But for the interest of today and the interest of the software, and what we always encourage you to do is to be uber conservative with your financials, okay? So cutting costs, we're going to assume the process that I just outlined, we can get a 3% bump And again, it'll be very, very difficult for you to only get a 3% bump. Okay, next we've got market dominating position. Okay, so we open up that. We go through a very simple Q&A process, and we ascertain, what are you doing in your business right now to separate yourself from the competition? Are you apples against oranges? Or are you apples against apples and having to compete on price? Again, without sitting with the dentist, the chiropractor, the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, I'm going to dare say that they are not separating themselves in any way, shape, or form. It's not the way that they're thinking. And by not thinking like that, what they're really doing is putting themselves in a position where they've got to compete on price. And then, of course, they get surprised by it. So what I would do is say, look, they're like, well, how do we separate ourselves? You notice that it's called a market dominating position. You'd probably know it to be a unique selling proposition. And simply put, a unique selling proposition will separate your client from the competitors. But a market dominating position, and we'll train you on this, we train all of our clients on this, but really, and we'll train your clients and your, the chiropractor and the dentist on it. But ultimately what we're doing is we're going, what is the hot button, the major hot button of the ideal client? Okay, there's a problem that they're trying to solve, and we basically look to solve that problem. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you're working with a daycare. You line up 100 daycare owners, and I say, what's the #1 hot button of your ideal clients? And I can tell you, because I've done it before with ridiculous predictability, they say price, they say location. Why do they do that? Because for 10 phone calls that they get, the first 2 questions on every one of them is how much, where are you? How much, where are you? Well, after about 5 minutes of market research, what you would find is that mom is dropping off her 2 prides and joys. Well, what she really wants is accountability is the biggest hot button for her. She's dropping off little Susie, little Johnny, and leaving them for 8 hours in your care. She wants to know that you're going to care for them the same way that she cares for them. She wants to know that they're safe, happy, going to be learning a lot, having a good time, and socially they're going to be able to fit in. And if they're not fitting in or not having, socially, that, you would go the extra mile to make sure that their kids had a wonderful experience, right? Okay. So if you agree with that, accountability is the hot button for mom. And remember, it's not dad. Okay, dad does not make the buying decision on where little Johnny and little Susie go. Mom makes it. So what we do is we look straight at mom and we see accountability. Okay, well, if that's correct, and do your own homework, and you will find that it is. Let me tell you, if you had a daycare and I had a daycare, and your daycare had a web watch where the parents could log on the internet, watch the kids, make sure they're safe, make sure they're having fun, and then at my daycare they weren't able to, tell me, where would you take your kids? Where do you think your wife would take your kids? And your instincts would be correct. The web watch, and remember, she could be driving down the road and just be missing her kids wildly, pull over on the side of the road, whip open her iPad, log on to the website, and basically be able to, watch her kids playing with others and socializing and eating lunch. And she's just missing her kids wildly, and she can see them in the main room. They're having a good old time and having a hoot. Okay, well, I got to tell you that is very, very attractive for mom. And if you are charging a small amount more, I can tell you that she is probably still going to choose your client's business over somebody else. Okay. But at the end of the day, what I really want to bring across there is that the daycare is not thinking like that. They're thinking everybody is buying on price, buying on location, and about 5 minutes of research would find accountability. So again, what does the marketing material look like? What does the conversation on the phone look like? What does the interview with the parents look like? And let me tell you, it should a lot like, we want to be accountable, we want to be accountable, we want to be accountable, we want to be accountable. On their website, in their marketing material, in their verbiage, when they're speaking to their prospects, when the staff are speaking to their prospects. That will make a marked difference. My question for you, or again, you could do something like an accelerated learning center. You tell me, if you had a daycare, I had a daycare, the kids that go to your daycare are going to expect to go into grade 1 with a grade 2 reading, writing, and arithmetic ability. And then at my daycare, they didn't have that option. Tell me, would you be willing to drive a little bit further? Would you be willing to pay a little bit more? And generally speaking, the answer would be yes. What I want to bring across here is the daycare owner is not thinking like that. And with a small amount of effort, do you think we could get a 3% bump? Okay, you say, well, I'm not working with a daycare, but you are working with a plumber. Well, what's the hot button? What are the challenges that you face when you call a plumber? Okay, and how about that they're never on time, and when they do show up, they've got the crack of their backside hanging out of their pants, right? Well, guess what? The market dominating position The bad one for your plumbing company is that we are going to be on time. Our staff are going to be dressed to an acceptable level, have a name badge, and their pants will be tucked in, we promise, right? And you make sure that all of your staff understand that. That's what they must do. Do you think you might be able to get a 3% bump? And I can tell you on past experience that that is a formality. Okay, so basically what I'm doing, and then we've got compelling offer. Okay, so that's the next one. Again, a quick little Q&A process. Do they have it in place? Are they spending any time in this area of their business? Change your offer, change your life is a saying I've had for a very, very long time. The chiropractor isn't doing back talks. The personal trainer isn't doing a free class on Monday at the park, making themselves easily referable. And just the business coach is not doing a local live event at the Chamber of Commerce every Tuesday at 7 a.m. for 5 to 10 entrepreneurs, right? Well, when you do that, you become uber referable. That's one of the main things of your offer. You want to make it really, really easy for your friends, for your family, for your clients, for people that you work with to refer others. Okay, so basically what I'm doing is I'm just going through the list, okay? And could you get a 3% bump? Now, in this example of the client that I'm working with, and I filled out some very basic financials before it. So before I got to this point, I would have spent about 10 minutes setting up my own profile, the company that I'm about to work with, and then setting up their financials. What are your gross revenue? You need three numbers. What are your gross revenues? What are your gross margins? What are your net margins? And the good news is if any of that is Chinese arithmetic to you, the software will basically guide you and you'll have an industry average that you'll just choose, okay? So 50% gross is the industry average. Click it, boom, it populates with 50%. 20% net is the industry average. It automatically populates with 20% net, okay? So now what we're looking at here, so basically this is a company that was doing $1 million, okay? And the current profit is $200,000 exactly, okay? They've got 20% margins. And then after this small amount of work, okay, what we did is we put a 3% increase, okay, in all of the areas. How did I do that? What I did is I click this, yes, confirm, and then I put 3. If I change that to 4, it would be 4 across the board. If I changed it to 5, all of these numbers would populate as 5. That simple, okay? So in a perfect world, what you do is you will follow the Q&A process in, and say 5 of the 12 areas, and then you'll automatically go and populate the areas that you didn't get time to, okay? So here's my question. If you were working with a chiropractor, a dentist, a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker, do you think you could basically get a 3% bump in cutting costs, the way that I described it a minute ago? Could you help them with a really, really, really bad market dominating position? Again, get a 3% bump. Could you help them with a compelling offer to make them uber referable and have something really easy for people to come in and have a go at doing business with them, which again, right now they do not have? Could you do that? Get a 3%. We're not looking for 10%, 20%, 50%. We're looking for a 3% bump. And by the way that I did cutting costs earlier, I wouldn't get a 3% bump. I would get a 20. There's a really good chance I get a 20% bump. Again, does it get a client? Does it keep a client? If it doesn't, you put a line through it. Imagine what that would do to their expense items, right? But anyway, so let's keep going. Increase prices. Could you increase their prices? Of course, I know they all get scared. Telling you, McDonald's does it every year. 7-Eleven does it every year. Your client should be doing it as well. And the people that they would lose, I think you know this instinctively, would be the kind of people that price shop and probably not their ideal clients anyways. But at the end of the day, could you do it? Could you get a 3% bump? Upsell, cross-sell, right? Again, do you want fries with that? Do you want me to supersize it? Do they have it? I don't need to meet them. If you've got a lawyer, do you want a will with that? They don't have it in place. Could you implement that? Get a 3% bump. Bundling, downsell. So again, all we did is we got a 3% bump in each of the areas, and we found this client $184,901, which is a 92% increase in their profits. Okay, so the way I want you to think about it, we didn't hit a home run. What most clients do and consultants do and coaches do when they work with their individual client, they try to hit a home run. An example is they go, let's run ads on Facebook. And the chiropractor is already saying to himself, the conversation already in their head, we've got to be able to make Facebook work for us. Okay, so they go, wow, I finally found somebody. They turn on Facebook. Facebook takes, you need to hire a copywriter. You got to create an ad. You've got to buy some ads. You need somebody to manage those ads. You got to retarget the people that don't buy off the ad. You need to pick up the phone when somebody does respond to the ad, and somebody may or may not be on the other end of the phone. So no doubt you could see how if you implemented a Facebook ad campaign, and I'm not in any way suggesting that you shouldn't do that. We run ads on Facebook, Instagram. You know, we've got ads running all over the world right now as I speak to you, to be clear, right? But is the chiropractor ready for the digital marketing strategy? And the answer is, I don't know, but I know what I just described is it would take a lot of effort, time, debatably some new staff, definitely some new expense, some new tracking, some new skills, and it could be a complicated process. Well, if we just wanted to get a 3% bump in their digital marketing, it's that the owner, the sales manager, the wife, the husband is going to post something compelling 3 times a week, every week. Okay. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they put up a post on Facebook. Over the course of 12 months, would they start to get, let's say it's a roofing company and they charge $20,000 for a roof. Could they get one roofing job through that social media presence, through those efforts, through the direct messages that come through as people like, comment, share, etc. on their Facebook profile? And the answer is maybe, by the way, but a 3% bump doesn't require staff. It doesn't require expense. Okay, so again, I co-wrote a book on accounting, and I just want to explain something very, very quickly. When you have 20% net margins, as these guys have, and they earn $1, the business keeps 20 cents, okay? Because again, it's 20% net. So 80% goes to expenses, and then 20% goes into the bank account, okay? When you go to cutting costs, when you cut an expense, when you save them money off of their credit card statements, off of their P&L, and you go to their expense line items, which is very, very, very easy to do. You don't need to be an accountant. You don't need to be a bookkeeper. You don't need to have a finance degree in any way, shape, or form. You don't have to have any experience in finance. You will be able to go in and save them some money here. And what happens is they keep when you save them $1, instead of keeping 20 cents, guess how much they keep? And the answer is $1. So if you charge $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year, I'm going to suggest where you should start is in cutting costs, because there's a really good chance that you could cover your entire 12-month coaching fees debatably within a day or a week, certainly a month, but let's just assume within 90 days, you are already a free resource for your client. Imagine working with your client and on day 90, you were able to say, well, look, I was $24,000. I'm 24 grand for the year. You paid me 6 grand so far, but congratulations, high five. I've already put $24,000 into your bank account. So I am effectively free. I am a free asset, a free resource for the rest of the year. Do you think that might be good for the retention of your clients? Do you think that might be good for the relationship that you have with the chiropractor, dentist, butcher, baker, candlestick maker as you coach, consult with their business? And I can tell you from past experience, the answer is absolutely. So basically, that is the premise of the Jumpstart 12. We've got these 12 areas. We go through a quick little Q&A process. You're not trying to necessarily, you can hit home runs. And again, if you do this with cutting costs, you probably will hit a home run. But what we're really trying to do is hit singles, bunt, or hit singles in all 12 areas. And what happens is you get a compounding effect. If you are looking at this number at the top and you go, wow, a 3% increase only, and that is, I'm only charging $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year. And I find I'm providing these guys not revenue, but profit of $184,000. That sounds like an amazing deal. And by the way, I should probably hint, be getting a contingency on that. The answer would be yes. But again, that's how easy it can be. And everything that I'm describing here is not rocket science. We don't need to work out how gravity works. Basically, it is math. And if you've heard of compounding, you've heard of profit acceleration, which is how we refer to it around here. When you make a small incremental change in multiple areas of their business, you get a compounding result. And that's why this number appears to be probably really big when you're not experienced using our software. Okay, so basically that is the Jumpstart 12. And now what I would like to do, so a big improvement on a small business. And now what I'd like to do is just go across the top, because now you've sold the client their $2,000 a month. we'll assume, and they've decided that they want to work with you. Now the rubber needs to meet the road. Okay, what you're going to see is we've got priorities, because again, one of the most important things you can do with your client is manage their expectation and make sure you're doing the right things in the right order, right? Like again, without meeting your client, what's far more important than they get a whole lot done today is what they do first. Okay, well, there's 497 million weighted algorithmic sequences behind the software. Translation, what happens is the software will automatically or organically lead the more profitable activities towards the top. Okay, but at any stage, if you decide that lead generation is what you want to do, you want to build a drip campaign, you want to do digital marketing, you just drag and drop, okay, and you just move any of these actions items to the top. But you will see that cutting costs, market dominating position, compelling offer, and increased prices come towards the top. Okay, and again, if I wanted to move increased prices up here, all I would do is that I would press save. That order would then change. Okay, so now the weighted algorithmic sequence, like it led cutting costs to the top because of what I described earlier. It's so easy to do, right? Again, you don't need a finance degree to do it. All you need to do is pull out their credit card statements, pull out their P&L, look at the line items of their expenses and go, look, what doesn't get us a client, what doesn't keep us a client, and then negotiate whether or not you're going to rule it out entirely, or what you're going to do is negotiate with the vendor to be able to get them a discount or a reduced rate or better terms. Okay, increased prices, again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to work out that, you know, if they are charging $1 and you start charging $1.10, that is a 10% increase in price, but that 10% is going to go straight in the business owner's skyrocket, because again, they were charging $1 and now they're charging $1.10. That 10 cents is basically found money. You've got market dominating position, compelling offer. I went over those a minute ago, and you'll see over on the right, time to implement. I've gone through to be able to get a bit of an idea as to, you know, how long all of this is going to take. I've also filled out this profile, how many people work at the organization. So it's 1 to 4. How many hours per week will you help the client to implement these solutions? I put 1 to 2 hours a week. I could change that to 3 to 6. And I can change that to 1 to 2. Okay, question number 3, how many hours per week will your client commit to implementation? Simply put, you just ask them, you do what's reasonable. Don't try to push them, try to get to something that they'll be able to follow through with, that you will be able to follow through with, that will work for both of you. If it was 4 to 8, you click 4 to 8. If it's 9 plus, or it's 1 to 3, you click it. How many initial planning meetings do you want? So all of this, again, very, very straightforward. Click to confirm. Also, one of the questions is, how much experience do you have? So you'll see that, are you good on cutting costs? If you're an accountant, you're a bookkeeper, you got a finance degree, you're going to be really strong in this area. And even if you're not, I probably suggest you're going to be strong. Market dominating position. If you've got a really strong background on creating unique selling propositions and helping your clients market, you're going to click strong. Creating compelling offers, you know what, you're not so good at that. Okay, we can go needs help, very strong. Okay, so at the end of the day, you just simply put, all I'm doing is I'm ranking myself in the 12 areas of the Jumpstart 12, because that's going to help me with how long all of this is going to take. Okay, so again, I'm going to save the results. You see, this is 14 weeks. That's again because I'm weak in that area, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that down to 5 and then save it. Okay, so basically priorities, the algorithmic sequences are going to dictate what we're going to do and in what order. Okay, so now I'm going to come here, I'm going to click implementation. Now, depending upon the priorities, the drag and drop, and how much I've allowed the algorithmic sequences to take over, or how much that I've decided that I wanted to implement, will dictate how that's come to be. Now you're going to see that cutting costs, okay, because I clicked something back here, cutting costs 7. Look, it is not going to take you 7 weeks to go through the cutting costs. So I'm just going to save that, and you are going to see that when I go to implementation, that has minimized. Okay, that's going to have come back to 2 instead of 7. Okay, because at the end of the day, what I want to be able to do is have a really profitable, I want to get more tactical early on than strategic, maybe a conversation for another day, but I want things to go quickly. And my goal is to put, if I'm $2,000 a month, 24 grand a year, I want to put $24,000 into their bank account so that I can become a free resource. and effectively guarantee the retention of my client long-term, okay? So simply put, these are all the priorities. You see that I cut that back to 2 weeks, but cutting costs is first, and then increasing prices, market dominating position. And then we've got a quarterly review. Watch what happens here. You might be thinking, okay, I don't know how to do a quarterly review. Okay, well, guess what? Basically, we have got the framework for your quarterly review. You just insert your own name, your own company results. Okay, lesson learned. We've got this very comprehensive document available to you for doing the quarterly review if you're new to it. And you might be very experienced and have your own framework. You might want to use ours, okay? But simply put, in any one of these things, you're thinking, okay, how am I going to go about creating a market dominating position? You click this, and simply put, we have got the ABC 1, 2, 3 of how to go about creating a market dominating position for your client. One of the most important things, again, it's one thing to get the client, it's another thing to keep them. You know how Warren Buffett's got the 2 rules of business? You probably know what they are. Rule number 1 is don't lose money. Rule number 2, see rule number 1. Okay, how would you like me to provide a similar 2 rules for you and your coaching clients and your businesses? Okay, 2 rules of business. Get clients is rule number 1. Rule number 2, keep clients. That's it. Get clients, keep clients. Get clients, keep clients. Those are the 2 things that you should be working on. Again, when you go through cutting costs, you go through their expenses, every single line item that I'm looking at, does it get us a client? Does it keep us a client? Does it get us a client? Does it keep us a client? The answer to that is not yes. Basically, we're going to move on. Okay, so implementation step by step, we're managing. Notice how this is going to take 2 weeks. This is going to take 2 weeks. This is 5. This is 2. This is 1. Effectively, what I'm doing is I'm managing expectations of my client, because one of the biggest problems you have is that they're expecting everything yesterday, right? And that's not necessarily the way that it goes. Okay, so now I go to reports. And simply put, what we got to be able to do is to create a roadmap, a game plan for your client, okay? And again, understanding what we just did. Remember, cutting costs was first. If I had market dominating position at the top, this would be market dominating position. And these numbers are literally populated from the numbers that we worked out earlier when I was on the summary page of what this is going to mean to the business. They increase prices. The increase in profits, they see it to be $30,000, right? Market dominating position, and basically on and on it goes. You'll see it's very number centric. Okay, there's a reason behind that. We do find that when you're working with your business owners and you're putting hard numbers in front of them, it just tends to get them to, you say jump, they say how high, which is that's how you want it to be working. You're also going to see, I just clicked this toggle switch, and now what I've done is I've created a roadmap. Simply put, I want you to think of the report as more sandbox-ish, and then the roadmap is a little bit more comprehensive. And you'll also see that it says $329,002, and simply put, that number comes over here from the expected increase in revenue from the numbers that we did earlier with the 3% gains in the different areas. Okay, so simply put, here I am, and just think of it as a little bit more of a comprehensive document. And again, you download the roadmap, you make any adjustments that you want, and it's ready to go. Very, very simple. ROI, again, one of the things we're very, very good at is helping you get return on investment quickly with your client or for your client, and then also getting higher dollar agreements. So all you're going to do here is you're going to implement how much you're going to charge. You're going to charge $5,000 upfront fee, and then $19.97 per month. Okay, you're going to take a percentage of revenue, and let's call that 2.5%. You save that. I'm going to save your coaching fees. You're going to save your contingency. And now basically what we're doing is we've worked with this client, we've spent some time with them, and what we've ascertained is that there is basically $188,501 of year 1 profit that they are going to now realize. New realized profit of this number, a little over $188,000. Now here is your coaching fee, which is $28,964. So really, I want you to think of money at a discount. The only real question is, do you want to trade? Do you believe that these numbers are accurate and that we could get a 3% bump in all 12 areas? They're going to say yes, they're going to say no. Okay, so do you agree that that's $188,000? That's the way the math shakes out. Send a credit card, or a calculator across the table or pull out your computer calculator to work this all out if that's necessary, and it won't be, okay? But $188,000, they say yes. Okay, well, the only question is, are you willing to invest $1997 a month, $28,964 for the year? Because remember, we charged a $5,000 upfront fee. Are you willing to exchange $28,000 for the 188? And if they believe the number of $188,000 to be real, how would they not accept this? If I had a $20 bill, this is how you sell coaching and sell consulting. It's money at a discount. If I had a $20 bill and you had a $10 bill, the only question is, do you want to make the exchange? Okay, they're going to look for some social proof because they think you're full of poo-poo. They look for some social proof. And once you do it, they are going to say, will you do it another time, another time, another time? Because who wouldn't exchange a 20 for a 10? You'd be crazy, right? Well, they're doing better than that, in that they're exchanging $28,000 paid over 12 months, by the way, in exchange for $188,000 plus. Okay, so basically that's the ROI tab. And by the way, you could charge nothing up front. Okay, and then we save these numbers, and then these numbers would adjust. So that number is now 23,964. And by the way, I also put a 2.5% contingency, and the 2.5% contingency is 5,960 on this agreement here. And again, you can decide whether or not you want to put a contingency in place, but I can tell you that if you take on a client and they end up kicking butt and taking names and you're only charging them $2,000 a month, sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating. Your client's putting millions of dollars in their bank account, the result of, guidance, direction, mentoring, and accountability that you brought to the table, and you're only making $19.97 a month. It can stuff up the relationship a little bit. And generally speaking, if they're making millions, they're going to be willing to, share a small percentage of that, and so they should. Okay, so that's the ROI tab. We've also got agreements that I won't bore you with here, but we got contingency, MOU, non-disclosure agreement, the standard agreement. We've also got strategy guides where quite simply, we want you, so you're sitting with a dentist or you're sitting with a business owner. Would you like a little bit of a guide as to how we go about helping others? Here's a strategy guide and what we have done for businesses similar to yours. Okay, so that's the strategy guide. And then we also have turnkeys. We've built marketing turnkeys in about 125 different categories of business. So imagine you're sitting with a dentist or you're sitting with a small business owner and you say, look, how would you like your marketing? One of the things that we're going to do, Dave, is we work with you and your business is we are going to tighten up your marketing and make it very consistent, very compelling, and it's going to look great aesthetically. So how would you like your marketing to look this tight? I'm talking about your business cards, your magazine ads, your brochure, your landing pages, and your website. And I would ask you the question, are they going to say no to that? And the answer is no. So this is a little bit of eye candy that can work very, very well for coaching, high-end coaching clients. Okay, so now I end up on the coaching portal. Okay, and simply put, I am going to go in, actually, hang on, I want to go into William Skaggs. There we go. I have got to click an assessment. Okay, so I am going to start a coaching session, simply put, okay? And each week, so you understand, so I've got current notes, I've got assessments and files that we have traded back and forth. I've got implementation that I'll show you in a minute. I have got metrics that we're going back and forth with. I've got history. If this client cancels and then they come back 18 months later, you just hit the history tab and you'll be able to see all of your, notes back and forth and the coaching relationship, how it went, what they did, what you did, etc. And then of course you got your messaging center within the software. So I'm in current notes, and simply put, I want to add something here. All I do is I add X, Y, and Z. Biggest win since last session. Okay, again, I'm going to put X, Y, and Z. Biggest challenge since last session. Corrective action to overcome. 1, 2, and 3. Weekly revenue, weekly profits, weekly leads, weekly conversions, etc. Now you say, Carl, that's awesome, but look, I ask slightly different questions than that. Okay, instead of biggest wins since last session, biggest X, Y, Z, okay? Lowest X, Y, Z. Okay, so now I'm going to press save, and then I am going to go into this coaching session, and guess what? Biggest XYZ, lowest XYZ. So now I've got different templated Q&A that I'm going back and forth with, right? And then I've got coaching commitments. Okay, so send XYZ. Okay, I've got to save the commitment. Okay, client commitments. Do XYZ. I save the commitment. It's right there. And then, by the way, send session report, click the button, save today's notes. You just make some, you can make some itemized notes, etc. Everything that I'm seeing, you're like, how do you go about doing all this? You click the training video, and I've got a very short, tight, simple training video to basically walk you through everything. Now, let me show you the best fit, in my opinion. I'm going to go to implementation, and no doubt you do understand that the most important thing you can do is provide results for your clients. So I hear you saying, okay, Carl, got it, but I want to know, like, how do I go about implementing a market dominating position the way that you do? Okay, this is where AI, you see that we have this AI coach assist is following me everywhere I go. Okay, so anything that I want to ask AI within the software, it's right there. But basically, how do I create a market dominating position? And first, not started. Okay, I'll show you that in a second. So I've got level 2, I click it. Level 3, I click it. Level 4. Level 3, I click it. Level 4. Level 3, I click it. Level 4. Okay, so again, now we've implemented that. Okay, second thing that I'm going to do, again, so basically everything here that I'm doing, I am able to go level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4 is what I'm trying to bring across. Okay, so again, now we want to go into cutting costs, and the exact same process is there. And by the way, step 1, as I go in here, so I haven't started it. Okay, and then once I get going, I'm going to be able to come in here and you see this, I'm able to put in progress, and then I'm also able to put complete. Okay, so next week when I show up to my call, I'm going to know that this was completed. Save my choices, X that out. I'm basically going to be able to see that that's complete. So now I'm on to step 2. If step 2 was also complete, next week I know that I'm due to work on step number 3. Okay. Again, that's completed. Guess what? Next week when I get there, it's about getting to step 4. Okay, so you've got the steps and then you've got the levels. Okay, so basically idea being super important that you're going to help your clients create a market dominating position. You're going to help your client cut costs. You're going to help them increase prices. You're going to help them create an upsell, a downsell, a cross sell, help them bundle, help them add additional products and services. You're going to go to your coaching portal and we are going to guide you every step of the way. And not to mention where we're not able, what the software is not helping you automatically. We've got AI Coach Assist. You're going to click on the button and basically you're going to be able to get real-time support straight from artificial intelligence. Okay, so everything is there. And then once again, you're wondering, Carl, this is a lot to take in. Guess what? Here is your training video. We have got and again, the training videos are minutes long, not super comprehensive. Okay, so a little bit of a mouthful, but again, guys, everything that you're ever going to need for finding a coaching client, converting a coaching client, and then retaining that coaching client and delivering with that coaching client, holding that coaching client, consulting client accountable. We've got everything for you, including group coaching, because what we find is a lot of our consultants and our coaches are very successful. So then they say, Carl, this is awesome, but I've got 10 clients, I've got 15 clients, I've got 20 clients. I need to be able to do group. Well, guess what we created? Our job is to create the solutions that our coaches, our clients, our high-end clients, our high-end coaches are looking for. So we built coaching and we built group coaching software. Okay, so simply put, I am going to go into summer masterclass. Okay, and effectively this is basically my group coaching group. Okay, I want to add a member, very, very easy to do. Okay, these are all the lessons in this one group. If I want to view a lesson, I just click it here as in you want to test and have a little bit of a look as to what a passive referral system looks like. And see how I can see all of my clients here. So all of my lessons were laid out. Any notes that I want to take, any coach action steps that I want to take here, I just go XYZ, XYZ. And then look, these are all of my clients and they're all going at a different pace. Okay, so I click view details and I can see in an itemized way roughly where they're at. So if I have got a client who is not attending and not following through, guess what? I've got somebody that's going to, basically stop their, let's call it a $1,000 a month commitment. Or I've got a client that is super engaged. Well, then it's the opposite side of the coin where, look, I should really find a way to get this coaching client on the phone, send them a note. Hey, was thinking about you. Hey, saw this article, made me think about you. Hey, I got a crazy idea for you. I've got an idea. I've got something that I think you could implement very, very profitably, very, very quick. When can we grab 15 minutes? Well, you get that coaching client on the phone, that consulting client on the phone, and I think that you're going to find you'll probably easily be able to sell them something significantly more expensive. Okay, so basically you were able to see where everybody is at. Very, very simple. Okay, so again, we're here in group coaching. And one of the things I also want you to be able to see, you can also create some of the groups. We have got templated material for you. You probably want to create some of your own custom material. Okay, we've got the ability for you to basically supplement our content with yours. We've got the ability for you to completely ignore ours, put your own custom content from A to Z. And then we've also got the ability for you to basically take these lessons. If you wanted to take elevator pitch and make that lesson 1, and then you want to write copy to be the finale, actually you'd end up putting it here if you wanted it to be the finale, then basically all you're doing, it's all drag and drop, and you're just moving your lessons around as you so choose. And by the way, you might want to be doing it on the fly because again, you've got your group and you're getting questions around copy, you're getting questions around goal setting, you're getting questions around time management, you're getting questions around creating a market dominating position, raising price, lowering costs and raising prices. Well, you just adjust your lessons to suit. So we've got group coaching software. If you get together as one-to-one, we'll be able to go through that significantly more in depth. But at the end of the day, that is a quick run through. That is profit acceleration software. I could go on and on. I could go significantly more in depth, but I think that it is worth having a good hard look at. So if you would like to get a better look at profit acceleration software, follow the instructions on this page, and I'm very excited to see you on the other side.